You don't really know how strong you are until life forces you to find out. There's a morning you'll never forget, not because it was special, but because it was ordinary and you couldn't get out of bed. The weight wasn't physical. It was the silent crush of knowing everything was falling apart, that your plans meant nothing to the chaos that showed up, that what you thought was strength might not be enough. This is where most people quit, not because they're weak, but because pain has a way of sounding like truth. It whispers, "You can't." It convinces you the fight isn't worth it, that getting back up is pointless, that your scars mean you failed. But what if that voice is wrong? What if pain isn't the end, but the beginning? Mental toughness isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't show up with hashtags or motivational quotes. It's quiet, subtle, built in silence in moments no one sees. Imagine a fighter in a ring, bloodied, on one knee, crowd roaring, opponent grinning. That's the picture most people skip past. But that moment, that breath he takes before standing, is where toughness lives. Not in the punches, not in the win, but in the decision to stand again. Life is that ring. You get hit, sometimes out of nowhere, a diagnosis, a breakup, a failure you didn't see coming, and suddenly you're staring at your own limits. And here's the truth: limits don't lie, but they also don't define. You can choose to believe that the fall is final, or that the fall is feedback. You can see pain as punishment or as proof you're alive, engaged, still in the game. Resilience under pressure isn't about never breaking. It's about what you do after. It's about the voice inside that whispers again, even when no one's watching, even when everything hurts. Especially then. Pain is power if you let it be, if you stop running from it, if you face it, question it, walk through it. That's how inner strength is forged. Not in ease, but in endurance. Not in comfort, but in chaos. You've fallen. So what? Falling isn't failure. Staying down is. Struggle doesn't break you. It reveals you. Every time you've hurt and gotten back up, you've rewritten your story. There's a moment, right now, where you get to choose. Do I let this define me, or do I define this moment? Because inside you, there's a version that doesn't quit, that doesn't wait for perfect. That doesn't care how long the road is, as long as it leads forward. That voice, it's quiet, but it's yours. Ask yourself, will I stand up again? Not for applause, not to prove anything, but because you owe it to the part of you that didn't give up when everything said you should. The mind can be trained, but first it has to be tested. And pain, as brutal as it is, carries the lesson no book can teach. Maybe that's why the strongest people are often the ones with the deepest scars. Not because they asked for pain, but because they faced it, sat with it, and came out knowing more about themselves than comfort ever could have taught them. Keep showing up, even if your voice shakes, even if your steps are slow. Every breath is a rebellion against defeat. You're not broken, you're battle-tested. You didn't fall to lose, you fell to rise. If you can sit in your hurt without running, if you can face your doubt without shrinking, if you can rise without answers, then you're already strong, stronger than you think. This is not a pep talk, this is a mirror, and in it you'll see the truth. You've endured things that should have broken you, but they didn't. You've survived moments that no one saw, and still here you are, still breathing, still walking, still showing up. That's not weakness, that's your power. That's your unshakable center. That's your mental toughness forged in pain. Maybe today, your victory isn't in conquering the mountain, but in deciding not to turn back. Maybe today, courage looks like taking one small step, even when your soul begs for rest. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to begin again. So the question isn't whether life will hit you. It's whether you'll rise. You've fallen, now rise. Some pain is loud, some is quiet, but all of it shapes us. There are days when you sit on the edge of your bed, staring at nothing, and the silence feels heavier than noise. You don't move, not because you don't care, but because you've carried too much for too long. You tell yourself, just one more breath, and then you take it. This is not weakness. This is healing, the kind no one sees. Mental toughness doesn't look like victory laps. It looks like brushing your teeth after crying all night. It looks like texting back when your heart wants to disappear. It looks like showing up quietly with nothing left but hope. You remember the moment it cracked, when everything you held together came undone. A breakup, a loss, a betrayal, and no one noticed. But you were different after that. You questioned everything, including yourself. You asked, was it me? You wondered if maybe life just wasn't meant to work out for you. And in that spiral, you almost let go, but you didn't. That's what matters. Pain is power, not in theory, in truth, because what you've survived, many wouldn't. What you're carrying, most can't see, and still you breathe, still you rise. Never give up doesn't mean fight endlessly. It means rest when needed, but return when ready. There's no deadline to healing, no perfect pace. Sometimes it's one deep breath. Sometimes it's screaming into a pillow. Sometimes it's just surviving the hour. But it all counts. Every act of endurance, every time you stayed when leaving felt easier, every boundary you set when you used to please everyone, every tear you wiped when no one was watching. You didn't break, you rebuilt. And you're still becoming. That is inner strength. Overcome struggle, it doesn't mean never breaking. It means learning to bend without disappearing. It means letting pain change your shape without stealing your name. You've known rejection, you've tasted failure, you've been told you're too much or not enough, but you're still here, still trying, still showing up when it's hardest. That is your quiet miracle. Healing is not linear. Some days you'll feel like you're sprinting, some days like you've gone backward. But even on the still days, even when all you can do is breathe, you are becoming. You're not healing to return to who you were. You're healing to become who you were meant to be. There is courage in starting again and again and again. Each time you choose to get back up, you're declaring, this will not be the end of me. You may carry scars, but those scars are symbols, not stains. They say, I survived. They say, I chose to stay. They say, I mattered enough to fight for. Never forget that. You are allowed to be exhausted, to feel broken, to want to quit, but you are not allowed to give up on the version of you that believed once that something better was possible. Let today be the day you recommit, not with force, but with gentleness, a hand on your heart, a whisper, not yet, I'm still here. Because healing isn't loud, it's honest, it's raw, it's doing the next right thing, even when it hurts. It's showing up again. So if no one's told you this lately, you're doing better than you think. The work you're doing in the dark matters. And every time you show up for yourself, you light a path someone else will one day follow. This is not the end. This is the moment you keep walking. That's healing. That's power. That's mental toughness rising through the hurt. And one day, not far from now, you'll look back and say, I didn't give up. I came home to myself. And maybe on that day, you'll realize something even deeper. You were never broken. You were becoming. You were healing in silence, becoming in the dark, preparing in stillness. And when the light returns, you'll carry it. Not because the pain is gone, but because you've learned how to carry both the pain and the power. That's the quiet triumph no one can take from you. You thought the storm would break you, but it broke something else instead. Your illusion that you were weak. Because after everything, after the failure, the loss, the dark nights when no one called, you're still here. And maybe that's not the story you plan to write, but it's the one that proves who you really are. Mental toughness isn't born from comfort. It's carved through moments that nearly unraveled you. And yet, you kept going, with no map, no guarantees, only grit, only something inside you that refused to go silent. You once thought strength was loud, visible, triumphant, but real strength? It's in the quiet decisions. In the mornings, you got out of bed when everything said stay down. In the nights, you didn't text the person who hurt you. In the hours, you kept showing up, even when your heart felt hollow. You didn't need a witness. You needed a reason, and you found one inside yourself. That's what toughness looks like. It's not perfection, it's persistence. It's rising again and again, not because you feel ready, but because you refuse to stay fallen. There's a voice in you that survived all the others. The one that says, try again, even when you're tired, especially when you're tired. Inner strength isn't something you find. It's something you reveal by going through what was meant to silence you. The tears you cried behind closed doors. The days you doubted if you'd ever feel like yourself again. The hours when you showed up, even though you had every reason not to. You've overcome struggle that would have buried the old version of you. And in doing so, you met someone new. A version of yourself you didn't know existed. Someone who stands up, not for show, but for survival. Someone who keeps moving, not for attention, but for truth. That version doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't shrink for comfort. It doesn't seek validation. It moves forward, with or without applause. Pain is power, not in how it hurts, but in what it teaches. Pain strips away illusions. It forces truth to the surface. It asks, what are you made of? And now you know. You are made of steel and story, of failure and force, of tears and tenacity. You've earned every inch of the road you're standing on. You are not the same. You're not trying to become the old you. You've outgrown that version. You've tasted resilience. You've seen what happens when you don't give up. And now, your life is no longer about proving anything to anyone. It's about living in alignment with the power you've earned. You don't seek peace, you create it. You don't chase strength, you remember it. You don't wait for healing, you choose it, one breath at a time. That's motivation. Not hype, but history. Not empty mantras, but lived experience. Not borrowed wisdom, but scars turned scripture. You've done the hard part. You didn't quit. So now you get to build not from shame, but from strength. Not to escape, but to create. Not to prove, but to become. Every time you doubted yourself and acted anyway, you built muscle. Every time you were afraid and showed up anyway, you built truth. Every time you got knocked down and stood back up, you built legacy. That's what this is. Not a comeback, but a becoming. So stand tall, not because life is easy, but because you're finally rooted. Speak clearly, not because you have answers, but because your voice no longer trembles. Move forward, not because you're fearless, but because your fear no longer owns you. The world may not notice the shift, but you will. Because when you walk into a room now, you don't seek the light, you carry it. You're not waiting to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. And that decision, that moment when you finally believed fully, quietly, without conditions, that you are enough, that's the moment everything changed. That's what power looks like. That's what freedom feels like. That's what becoming is. You're not done yet. You're just getting started. And this time, you're not building from brokenness. You're building from wisdom, from fire, from all the days you didn't give up. You've become the person your past self was hoping to find. And now you carry the strength someone else will one day lean on. This is not motivation. This is your truth. This is who you are now and who you're still becoming. Pain was your greatest teacher. Not because it was fair, but because it was honest. It revealed what was real, what mattered, what couldn't be taken from you. Pain is power. Not because you enjoyed it, but because you didn't run from it. You let it shape you, not define you. You let it stretch you, not shrink you. You let it pass through, then walked forward carrying wisdom. Inner strength is what you discovered when there was nowhere left to hide. It's the voice that said, keep breathing. It's the footstep you took, not knowing where it would lead. It's the belief that maybe, just maybe, you still had more to give. And you did. You've overcome struggle after struggle, not always gracefully, not always clean, but always real. And that realness, that rawness, that's what made the healing matter. Never give up. Not because it's a quote, but because it's a truth you now live. You've fallen, yes, but you've risen more times than you've fallen. And that math, that legacy, that's everything. This is what the journey has taught you. You are not your past, but you are the proof that pain can bloom into purpose. You are not broken, but you've been broken open, and that's where the light got in. You are not what they said, but you are what you decided. And now you carry something different, a calm strength, a knowing, a presence that doesn't beg to be seen because it knows its worth. You've circled back to the moment you almost gave up, but now it's different because you see that version of you, not with shame, but with compassion. That was you in process. That was you becoming. And now you know, the version of you today is the result of every day you didn't quit. Every breath you took when you didn't want to. Every time you sat in the dark and waited for your light to return. You've come home to yourself. This is no longer about survival. It's about creation. You're building something new, not from scratch, but from scars. Not from fear, but from clarity. So take this moment, breathe it in. This is what strength feels like. Not loud, not flashy, just true. You are not who you were. You are more, and the world needs more of that truth, more of that depth, more of that courage. You are the mirror someone else needs to see. You are the proof that pain doesn't win. So don't stop now. Don't slow down. Not because you're chasing anything, but because you've become something worth continuing. This is what becoming looks like. This is what healing leads to. This is what never giving up becomes. And you are just getting started. Because your life now carries weight. Not because it's perfect, but because it's earned. Every scar you carry tells a story. Every setback shaped your perspective. Every tear watered the roots of who you've become. And you are just getting started. So don't stop now. Don't slow down. Not because you're chasing anything, but because you've become something worth continuing. You've walked through fire. You've sat with shadows. You've rebuilt from ashes. Now you rise with grace. Now you walk with purpose. Now you live with power. This is your time. This is your chapter. And it's only the beginning. Mindset Mastery Hub, where inner strength is forged every single day.